I'm Philip White, and this video is a brief overview of the UK power sector and why the planned Hinkley Point C nuclear power station has had difficulty in its development. Delays and polarizing opinions have surrounded the development of Hinkley Point since its site approval in 2010. However, to understand the reason it's being developed, we need to understand how energy is generated in the UK. The UK consumes around 335 terawatt-hours per year of electricity generated by a variety of fuels. Over half of the fuels used are CO2-emitting fossil fuels. This is important because of this. The Climate Change Act of 2008. This legislation requires the UK to have an 80% reduction in greenhouse gas by 2050 relative to a 1990 baseline. To have such large reductions, CO2 emissions must be tapered. You can see that nuclear emits much less greenhouse gases than conventional fuels, making it a natural replacement for them. However, there are some trade-offs. Nuclear energy is associated with meltdowns and harmful radioactive waste. The fuel can be enriched to weapons-grade uranium, and many communities see its cooling towers in the concrete buildings as polluting the landscape. Despite these concerns, the UK government has identified 8 sites for new nuclear plants in 2010. The Hinkley Point C reactors are first in line for development. The EDF-owned Hinkley Point C power station will meet 7% of the UK's electricity on its own. What could go wrong when planning a $22 billion nuclear plant that could power the entire east of England? Many, many things. Every level of governmental institution has gotten in the way of Hinkley Point. In October 2013, the UK government approved a guaranteed price for electricity from Hinkley Point in order to help reduce risk to investors. By December, the European Commission investigated if this subsidy to EDF was appropriate. In March 2014, Antashka, an NGO from Ireland, challenges the legality due to transboundary damages were there to be a nuclear accident. That same month, the United Nations calls a committee hearing with the UK government on failure to consult neighboring countries. In October, the Commission approves Hinkley Point, but Austria files a complaint against this in June 2015. Between September 2015 and June 2016, EDF falls into a bunch of debt and recommends Hinkley to be postponed. But in June 2016, they hold a vote and approve the project. The newly formed pro-Brexit government approves Hinkley in September 2016, despite worries of China's involvement in the project. Why should it continue? Its ability to easily replace fossil-fueled baseload plants while decarbonizing the power sector. If this fails, why would anyone want to build with a new nuclear plant in the UK ever again? They wouldn't. The UK would then have to go to other resources to find the pathway to 80% reductions, but the key question is it worth losing the return on investment on nuclear projects?